Alright, so now we're up here in Blender. We're gonna kick off our asset creation section of the course. In this section, we're gonna be creating some trees, rocks, and landscapes. And in the next one, which is the grass and foliage creation, we're gonna create some grass and foliage for it. Also, I'm gonna be deep diving into my workflow for it. So of course, we're gonna go from Blender to ZBrush to Substance Painter to Unreal, and then inside Unreal we'll create the corresponding material for our assets. So right now we've got Jim over here. Jim is our UE4 mannequin. He is 1.8 meters tall, so a bit on the tall side. We're using him for scale. This doesn't need to be a UE4 mannequin. This can be a cube, for example. That is almost the right size. We could use this cube, 1.8, 1.8, both are the same height. We're just gonna leave Jim over here on the side and start making a tree. We're gonna be making a tree right now. So you could use SpeedTree or Grow 3D or any other tree creating, like tree generating software. But I'm just gonna show you how to do it in Blender. So mesh, go to add mesh and add a plane. Let's press tab. Press Alt-M and merge at center. Great. Now we press Control-Tab and go to Vertex Selection, and you can see we have one vertex over here. Press Tab again or go back to Object Mode so we can move it. And I'm just going to put it at the 0 of the world so that it's completely centered. Click on it again, go to Tab, Control-Tab, Vertex again. If this is a bit too fast, all that I've done so far is add in a plane, merge it to a vertex, put it to 0 of the world, and now we're going to start working. So we press tab to go back to object or edit mode. We are editing this now. So we click on the modifiers, our modifier stack over here, and we're going to add a skin modifier. And under that, we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier. Great. I don't remember if the order is correct on these ones, but we're gonna see. So we are just gonna extrude, and if you're asking yourself how I did it on the z-axis, you just press E and then Z, and you can do that for every axis. You could do it for the x-axis, E and X. You could do it for the y-axis. Anyway. Right now, what we have is essentially a tree trunk. So if you want to scale or downscale this, you press Control A and drag it. Let's have this as our root, like main root. And yeah. So let's make a tree. Now, in this step, you could have a picture of a tree or a 2D concept of a tree behind us, and just just mirror it, or rather do the same, trace it basically, like you would do a drawing. We're not going to do that. Let's just come up with a shape. And I don't know, I'm going to make a skinnier tree. Like a skinny tree. Yeah. Let's go like this. And you could go over here to subdivision and increase the samples. We're not going to do that just yet. I think it's fine. What we are going to do though is go back to object mode and right click, and we're going to go to shade smooth. And you got to do that. In fact, you got to do that in edit mode. So let's go back to edit mode, press tab again, and select everything using A. Shade smooth. Again, we press space and go to shade smooth. It's not shading smooth first. Oh yeah. Oh, this isn't mesh yet, right? This doesn't exist. So we need to go over here to our skin modifier and turn smooth shading on. Anywho, it's smooth now. All right. So we haven't really seen the potential of this method yet, but you are going to be seeing it quite soon. So I don't know, let's branch over here And let's scale it a bit down because the tree gets thinner and thinner, right? And over here, we're gonna have a branching path. Now this is where it gets interesting. So now we have, let's just make a sort of weird branch shape. Great. Now, all you gotta do is just go back, and if you wanna see the exact vertices, you can press Z or Z, and you can see them. And it needs to be a bit bigger, and then you can play with it. I mean, look, it's completely fine, you know? And you can even go as far as moving whole branches back and forth, you know, making it the way you would like. So let's keep going. And up here, let's just select this. And if you want to go to the Z view, that's completely fine. So we can do it like this. And then let's branch it. Right? So as you can see, when you don't change the width of it, it gets a bit weird. But no matter, we're going to do it. Let's go back here and branch it even more. Create like a connecting shape over here. Don't worry, we're going to fix the width of it. Let's go back here and just do it like this now, because I'm going to show you something different then. Because right now, all that we're doing is creating basically like a 2D tree, right? So what you would want to do is move these towards the front or the back, you know, like tweak them. So to go to the side viewer, press 3, right? We could just move this, just move it, and progressively move them up like this. Anyway, you can do as you like on your own time. Now let's fix the width on this. Now sometimes when you get too close, you get these artifacts. Just move it around so yeah, see, like you don't want this kind of pinching to happen. So yeah, move them around so that you don't get that kind of pinching. And this is how I did all of the trees. And in fact, this is how I've been doing most of the trees for my scenes. Right, so yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time tweaking this, because anyway, it's easy to get lost in it. But yeah, there's not much to talk about during this section. We're just gonna let's just make a block out of a tree. Oh yeah, so this is basically the blockout stage. We got a pretty complex mesh if you look at it. This is fine. It's not optimal. I mean, ideally we'd want to decrease this, but we could do that in ZBrush later. Or not. Maybe this is a hero tree asset, right? So it's okay that it has like a ton of vertices. But ideally you'd want to decimate this. So if you want to like quickly optimize it, I'll just show you a way later. But you can basically just add after you're done with your mesh and you want to optimize it, you have your low poly and stuff. Ideally before UVing, you could just go over here and add a decimate modifier and then tweak it. It's not, yeah, like if you, can you see, like it's gonna triangulate your mesh and like decrease the size and stuff. So that's how you would optimize it. You could optimize it by hand as well, but that's more difficult, you know, than anyway, spend more time looking at silhouette. Maybe you can draw the silhouette of your tree in Photoshop and import it here as a sort of a blueprint, you know, and just use that. Anyway, let's not spend too much time like tweaking it. If you want to get rid of one of these, you could press Shift V, and if you have auto merge on over here, it's gonna merge. Sometimes it doesn't work though, so be careful with that. Anyway, so what I was about to show you over here is that you can branch multiple ones, like over here. And then you go back, and you can do it over here. Like do it in a complete opposite. Sorry for that. I don't know if you heard the bike messenger just going. I don't know. There was a bike. Anywho, let's create a branching one, and you can let your imagination fly in this stage, right? Or just follow a concept. Just be aware, if you put too many branching ones, you can get that stretching I was talking about, but it looks like it's fine now. So anyway, I'm gonna tweak this a bit, and when I come back, I'm gonna have some closing remarks. Basically, I'll teach you what to do with this, and then we'll see each other in ZBrush. All right, so here we are. I tweaked what we had, essentially. I added more variation in shapes. I just tweaked it. We have a little pinching over here. Oh no, I don't think there's too much to do about it. Oh, all right, yeah, there it is. Anywho, yeah, look out for that. Oh, another one. Because this will give us trouble when we import this to ZBrush later. All right, I think that, oh my god. Yeah, as I said, all right, it's fine now. As I said, look out when you have many branching from a single vertex. It's not too good. Anyway, what I was the new technique I was gonna show you. Oh yeah, right. So we have a lot more vertices over here, right? So how did I do that? Basically select a vertice and press Control Shift B. This is a bevel, but for vertex. This is vertex beveling. So if you drag it, you create a bevel over here. And if you use your mouse wheel, you can increase or decrease how many vertices you're gonna add. So here's me adding like a bunch. So yeah, it's an infinite amount that you can add. So yeah, just whenever you want to add more vertices, if it's not at the end, because at the end it won't do anything. If it's like between two vertices, you just do the little bevel. So this is essentially done. So what do we do with this? What we are going to do with this is duplicate it. This is our backup mesh. This has our modifiers unapplied. So we're just going to leave this as is. If you want to name it as a backup, go ahead over here in the scene collection. So if you select this and name it tree backup, right, that's our backup now, and this is our SM tree main, or just tree. Yeah, that's fine. Right, so what we're going to do now is apply both of these, and we're just going to export it and go to ZBrush, go do some sculpting. So go over here to File, Export FBX, select a folder that you're going to remember, export a meshes, and we're just going to go SM underline tree. And just let me check if I'm on the correct path over here. Yeah. And be sure to check selected objects. so that only our selected object gets exported. So export FBX, that's done. Next time I see you, we will be inside of ZBrush and I'll tell you all about sculpting trees. Alright people, now, so here we are in ZBrush. So what we're gonna do is go over here to Z plugin, and we're gonna go into FBX export and import. So let's import our mesh, our tree mesh, so that we can get to work. So if we go to our folder over here, exported meshes, and here's our tree. Right. So I'm not going to be teaching fundamentals of ZBrush. However, I'm going to go through some rather useful information about the software, or rather to improve your workflows in the software. So before we add our model over here by clicking and dragging, and as you can see, if you do it over and over again, you can't edit the mesh, you can only draw it in 2.5D mode. If you press Control N, you clear that. So whenever you add a new mesh by dragging it, and if you press Shift, you can snap it. Whenever you drag it in, you need to press T, as in tortoise or turtle, or yeah. You press T, and now I can sculpt on it, right? And if you press F, you're gonna focus on your model. If you press Shift and then drag, you can snap it, and you can snap up or down or to the side, and sometimes that gets really confusing. ZBrush isn't the best UX UI wise, so keep that in mind. It's a bit difficult to get used to if you're using it. But here is our tree, very nice looking tree. Yeah, so before we start, I'm just gonna go over some of the brushes I'm gonna be using. So if you go over here to Lightbox up here on top and click on brush, you can get to some brushes that are not available in that drop down. Oh my god, what did I do? Jesus. What happened? What is this? Let's switch to 2.5D mode, clear it. What did I do to my tree? I clicked on something obscure and destroyed my tree, so let's import the mesh again. Alright, and then add it. Focus on it. Alright, go back to Lightbox, brush. And now we can access some of the brushes that are not in our drop-down menu over here in the brushes section, such as our trim brushes, which we're going to be using heavily, since this gets a cool, like, flat sort of style, sort of chiseled, I would say, I don't know. I use Trim Smooth Border a lot. You could use Trim Dynamic as well. Trim Adaptive, where is it? Well, it's somewhere else. Anyway, these are great, so definitely use them. There are some new ones that I haven't used that yet, but yeah, I usually use Trim Smooth Border and Trim Dynamic. We're going to be using mostly Trim Smooth Border, so let's already double click it so we can leave it saved. I don't customize my ZBrush UI because that keeps me free from, imagine I get a new computer, or I don't know, I use someone else's ZBrush or use it at work, and I wouldn't know where everything is at, right? Because I'm already used to my custom UI and stuff, so I never customize my UI. Right, what else do we need? So some other brushes that you could use and are very useful, and I use them heavily, are the orb brushes. Now, these brushes they don't come with ZBrush. You would need to download them from Michael's Gumroad. So if you search for orb brushes in Google, you'll very quickly find the orb brushes pack by Michael Vicente, Orb. This is a great stylized brush pack for ZBrush, and if you go ahead and download it, you can go to your ZBrush folder. Let me see if I can find my ZBrush folder over here. Yeah, you can go to your ZBrush folder and extract the files over here in ZBrushes inside its own folder. So I have it created here, orb, and inside you have all of the ZBrush project ZBrushes. So here they are. You're gonna get a package. You're gonna download it and get a package with all of these. So you just create a folder for them and export it, and they'll show up in your Lightbox. Right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get to sculpting. So first of all, we wanna. What I usually do is I set up some subdivision levels for this, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here to geometry and divide it. Actually, let's delete higher. I forgot to. I unchecked smooth, but let's check it. Smooth it once, twice, 3 times. This might be enough. Let's see. What I usually use to test out is that I get like clay buildup. I get, let me press F to focus. So let me draw on it. Get a smaller size brush. Draw on it. Yeah, this is fine. This is already some good information, but let's divide it once more. Yeah, this will get us some nice detail, and here's how the geometry looks on that. So right now, what we need to do with this piece is that we need to focus on these areas, on the areas right here, because those are going to be seen more all around. And we progressively detail it less, because these areas on top of the branches and etc. won't be seen at all because they'll be covered by leaves. And I'll cover how to make how I made leaves for the scene soon. I use a very interesting method to make them. So yeah, I'm gonna cover it soon. So, but right now let's focus on our trunk over here. So this part of the trunk is gonna be buried under the ground, and in fact later we're gonna get rid of the bottom here, because since this is gonna be in the ground, we don't really need it, and that's extra information for the engine to process. So I'm just gonna get my clay buildup brush here and try to get interesting shapes for our trunk. I'm gonna raise the intensity a bit here, and I usually do some shapes like this for the trunk. So these winding shapes, and I'm just gonna go over here and continue these. Now I'm not really liking the clay buildups. Maybe if we go over and use the clay tubes, click tubes constant. And this might be better. Let's check out clay tubes. Yeah, this might be better. All right, let's try again. And we're gonna use these brushes and these strokes to get to get a base for the polish and the details that we're gonna layer on top of it later. So maybe it's too intense. I don't know, let's lower the intensity a bit. All right. Now, all right, so as to not get too boring, I'm gonna try to be talking over this, but there's really not much to say for now. For now, we're just sort of experimenting with these brush strokes and with the silhouette. Right now, under here, we want to get some more protruding shape so that we could get a more interesting sort of root structure under here, you know? And there's more variation at the bottom. Yeah, and as you can see, I am doing downstrokes now, and this is progressively looking more and more like an actual tree because of the brush strokes that we're making. Like we're layering them on top of each other, and it very loosely resembles a tree. And we're gonna do this progressively until we get a nice amount of detail that we can polish. And it's crazy that it goes from looking rather weird to actually looking somewhat decent and then looking the way we want it to. Yeah. I mean, seems like it's fine now. So, right. Now we get to the more interesting part where we get the trim smooth, and in fact, no, started out wrong. Let's put a square alpha and decrease the intensity to like 30, something like that. All right. And now we're going to mitigate some of that detail in a way that we retain only the detail that we want, and we get some more interesting shapes out of it. So you can see that I'm mitigating some of that detail because it was really high frequency and really noisy. And here comes ZBrush with the perspective being weird. All right. Now I'm pressing Alt to raise or lower the geometry that we have. And here's where you can spend most of your time actually, because it's really important that you get good shapes that you like and you believe in. And so you can spend more or less time depending on how long you take to actually get the results you need. Right now, the brush strokes that we layered on earlier are giving us some nice grain, I would say, some veiny detail. Some of these little bumps you can see. Yeah, look, like it's giving us some nice detail. And this would be more, the wood for this tree that I'm going for is more smooth than just a barky sort of tree. If you want a more heavily like noisy bark, I would probably use a displacement texture or do the finer details using an actual texture instead of the sculpting, because that detail can take quite a while to sculpt. But if it's a hero tree of sorts, it might be worth it to go the extra mile and take more time sculpting it. This is a common tree. This is one of the trees that we're going to scatter around and hand place, you know? So you don't want to spend too much time on it, especially what you want to focus on is making it look interesting from all of the different angles and different, you know, and not just the same from every angle, because we're going to be using it a lot in our scene and we're going to be rotating it around. So it has to look good from every angle, but most importantly, it has to look different so that we can reuse it, so that we don't make too many trees, because that takes up more memory and more time to make. So a good part of the game development logic is to work smarter, not harder, right? So reusing assets is a big one. You can see that now under here, since we layered more detail on top of each other, we get more interesting shapes here. So our roots are way more interesting. If we press Alt, we can try to connect these shapes better to the top of our mesh. But yeah, look Looks great. If you're gonna use the smooth to kind of iron out these shapes, put it to a very low intensity because you can actually lose your detail if you do this. And I'm noticing here we're getting a bit pixelated over here. I should have, or in fact, I'm probably gonna do that. I'm gonna subdivide it again, but I'm not gonna smooth so that we don't lose our detail. There. Now in fact, if you want, you could, let's see how it would look if we smooth this. Yes, you lose some of the detail. In fact, you lose most of your crispy detail. But I'm actually quite fine with this. Does this version of ZBrush have the contrast? Clay tubes constant, crease curve, crumple. There's a contrast brush that I saw that was really nice. I can't find it right now. I wish that I could just search for it. Maybe let's try to look further because that would help us a lot here. Where is our contrast? Yeah, I can't really find it. Maybe it's not in this version. Someone that's watching this probably already found it and I didn't, and they're having a very hard time. Right, so I couldn't find it. It's fine. I mean, we didn't lose too much of the detail. But yeah, you could go back and why is this intensity so low? Alright. You could go back and tweak it a bit more. You can see that now we've got much sharper brush strokes because of the extra topology. But sometimes it's inevitable, especially when you've got raised surfaces like we do down here. But yeah, you can do a good job. Yeah, it looks fine. I mean, yeah, let's go. So as we go up the tree, we need to, and we should, detail it less and less because it will be even harder to see these parts. So sometimes I don't even go through it with the clay tubes. Sometimes I just use the Alt over here. Use your trim smooth border. Just use the Alt and sculpt on top of it over here just to get shapes that sort of resemble what we had at the bottom but aren't as refined, you know, and we can do this all around. Of course, if you think it's quicker, and sometimes I do think it's quicker, you could just do a clay tubes pass on it too, on the whole tree, and just go through it with the trim smooth border or trim adaptive or whatever to get more detail. I am not doing it right now because I'm just trying to show you different ways and approaches that you can take and that all of those are valid and will get you to the same place. So you can see that I'm trying to avoid like clumpy shapes as much as I can, but it's no matter if you get like clumpy shapes on one side and elongated shapes on the other, because the name of the game here is variation, right? Because we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna reuse this everywhere. So right now we're coming up on 13 minutes, and I think I've already covered most of what I'm gonna be doing in this tree. So I'm probably gonna either time lapse this or skip it to the end so that we see like an end result, and then we come back and I'll show you what to do with the model that you're gonna get out of this. Hey Thomas, this is gonna be the time lapse. I'm just gonna record me detailing like the rest of the tree, and yeah, that's basically it. So you can like fast forward this part over just so that I don't skip. I don't really like skipping. I like, yeah, anyway. Uh, you can time lapse this. Thank you so much. So now that I've come over here and layered some of the secondary details um, on top of what we had before, on top of our base mesh, it's time to add some more details, and I'm just going through this really fast. Of course, you can take your time during this process, experiment with shapes, try to find something you really like, and so we come over here, let's go to our Lightbox brushes and look at our warp brushes. I'm going to be using mostly our, let's see what we're going to use this. We have extreme polish, which is nice, but I'm probably going to use the slash curves. I'm just going to show you a bit of how the slash curves work. So as you can see, it creates these scratches, and they're really nice if you want to do like scratch. Here's a scratch. Be careful with where you place these scratches because they can break your diversity. So if you put like a huge like gash over here, every time you rotate this, you can really see that it's the same mesh, right? Whereas if in a scene you place them and they don't have very noticeable details, you can get away with every tree feeling sort of unique. But let's go over here and add some slashes to the bottom, over here, maybe like this. Maybe we get slashes like this, and you can really use this to add detail to whatever. Let me put like 12 because it was really low. So try to find places where a slash would make sense. Damn, 16, 10. 10, I went 10. All right. Try to find places where a slash would make sense. So over here maybe, along this line. I don't know. Experiment with the brushes. What did I do? Let's put in 8. Yeah, 8. Yeah, 8 is nice. Yeah, look, you can really accentuate some of these details. You could add a slash, something like this. You know, really play with this. You could use it to do very light gashes here and there. This really adds more detail to your model. And you could also use it to don't know if you can see, but yeah, we're adding instead of subtracting here. So do experiment with it. It's especially useful in the branches, but I don't think there is too much else to cover here. This tree is looking acceptable. I mean, as I said, this is just a tutorial to get you sort of started. Of course, you're going to spend more time detailing it and trying to get shapes that you want. But over here, I'm just looking for more places to add this, but I think it's fine overall. What you can do also is you could go over here and try to... What did I click? I'm clicking on so many crazy things. All right, let's go to Lightbox Brush. The rock detail is a good one. Of course, it's for rock, but a very light use of it in various types of models will yield you different results. Over here, it doesn't look too bad, as you can see. Like, this adds more scrunchy detail, you know. And the tree really, the tree that I made over here kind of does have rocky shapes, you know. But yeah, let's not use it like way too much. But using it a bit will add some surface variation. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, experiment with this, experiment with different brushes. I'm gonna smooth this out a bit. Anyway, this is just to get your foot in the door, to kind of teach you how to get the shapes that you want, how you would go about making the shapes for the tree. So right now, what we do is, now we have two models over here, right? One of them is the first subdivision level, which is already, it's a bit dense on these branches over here. You would probably want to have less polys on that, but it's fine for what we're doing here. So what we're going to go over here and do is going to go to Z plugin, export, and we're going to export to selected. We'll export our tree as here in engine export. Let's go and do SM tree underline low. So this is our low poly, right? And we're going to go over and go to our highest subdivision level over here. And yeah, and do the same thing, but we're going to name it high. So this is our high poly. Now what we're doing is we're preparing these meshes to go into Substance Painter and bake them down so we get some maps, some mainly the normal and ambient occlusion maps, which are the ones that we're going to be using. Of course, once you get them in there, you could also texture them over there in a stylized way and get them into Unreal after. However, that's not the workflow that I usually use. I usually do all my colors inside of Unreal for stylized. For realistic, of course, I usually use my Substance Painter. But yeah, next time we see each other, we're gonna be in Substance Painter. So see you soon. So after we've exported our tree trunk over here, we might as well just do the top of our tree now, so I can go over the workflow. This workflow was first introduced by, well, as far as I know, right? It was first introduced by Pontus Carlson, and it's basically what happens is we're going to create a mesh for our leaves, and it's going to be a fairly low poly mesh, but the catch is that it's going to have well distributed quads, and all of them are going to have the same size basically, so that after in Unreal we can make every face a billboard essentially. So oh yeah, and over here we're gonna make every single face go from 0 to 1 inside the UV space. So basically that would be a tile UV is what they call. But every face, so it would be overlapping UVs, right? So every face is going to be 0 to 1 in the UV space. And then we're also going to create an opacity mask for it inside of, it could be either Illustrator or Photoshop. I'm going to show you how to create that. And then inside of Unreal, I'll show you how to make the material for it, and then how to tweak it and stuff. ZBrush went into hibernating mode. Anyway, so let's just make the mesh for now. I'm going to make a very, I don't know, simple one. We're just going to go over here to subtool. We're going to append a subtool. I'm going to go sphere 3D, select it. I remember, yeah, that's already editing. So now let's get our transpose tool here so that we can scale it down and just move it. Let's move it up here generally, and let's get a very rough shape for our treetop over here. Keep in mind that with this technique, the mesh inflates a lot, so let's make it fairly smaller than what we would usually, but maybe this is too small. Yeah, maybe something like this. Now let's stretch it over here. Right. And then I'm going to use my mouse for this. I'm not going to use the, anyway, there's really no need to use a stylus for this. So what we're looking for is basically the silhouette. On the top left here, you can see a silhouette. Let's try to get a good looking silhouette with the subdivision level, and then I'll teach you what we do, how we get the other subdivision levels. So maybe we should do it like this. And let's try to get a lot of shape variation, because in this technique, the mesh really, the mesh cards really take up the look of the underlying shape, right? So if we have like a blobby mess, it'll be super blobby. But if we have nice shape variation, we can get some good results out of it. Maybe if we do it like this. And here we're just looking for nice shapes, right? Not really anything else. So maybe do something like this over here. Let's do smaller bumps just to get the variation that we want. Maybe it went off too much to the side, so let's smooth this out. In fact, instead of smoothing, maybe we should just move it. So here's our move. I'm gonna move it. Just look all around to see if we got what we want and what we need. I mean, maybe it's still, let's smooth this out a bit. It's still like a bit weird over here. Maybe we move it up. And anyway, this is just tweaking, right? You're gonna experiment on your own time and stuff to see what works, what doesn't work. And anyway, so yeah, it's pretty good. Let's just get the standard brush again, make it a bit smaller, and just paint everywhere so that we can get more variation, because if it's super blobby, it won't look too nice. But if it's too noisy as well, like it won't look nice as well. So we need to get a good balance. I mean, this looks nice. All right, now that we've got basically our shape over here, let's go over here to geometry. And first of all, let's save our Z tool again before we start messing with it. Save it again. And before we get messing with it, let's go over here to Z remesher. We're gonna remesh this. Basically, we're gonna I want less polygons because, let me press Shift F. Each of these faces are going to be a billboard. So if there are too many billboards, this will adhere too much to the underlying shape. And we don't really want that. We don't want the exact underlying shape. We just want this shape to drive our effect. So we want less billboards, so less faces. Plus the top over here doesn't really, yeah, you see? So let's go. What we're going to do is go adaptive size 0, curve strength 0, 2, and the target polygon count, you need to play with this. But let's go with 0.4 and see where that gets us. Right, this is good actually. This might be too little polygons, but I think this is fine actually. Let's sculpt on it a little bit more. This is going to be sort of a final model. I mean, we'll see. If it doesn't look nice inside of Unreal, then we might, in fact, let's double this. Nah, this is way too much. Let's go back. Instead of 0.4, let's put 0.6 and do it again. Right, so now this messed with our shapes too much. So let's go back and do 0.6. Right, I don't like this too much. This like super spiral, the spirally thing. Well, that might be an interesting shape. Who knows? Yeah, overall this is looking great. All right, now next step. I'm trying to keep this tutorial as software agnostic as possible. So I will show you how to do in Blender what I'm gonna do here in ZBrush. But essentially, you're gonna go over here to UV map. I'm gonna create a 512 one. Create a 512 one here. Create and UV tab. Boom, our UVs are done. That's it. So what we can do now is go over here to Subtool, Z plugin, export, and we're gonna export visible instead of selected. However, no, actually, we're gonna export selected, and we're gonna have the top separated from the bottom, and then we'll just join them inside of Blender because they're gonna have separate materials anyway. So yeah, let's export this. Where did we engine export, right? Yeah, tree low, tree high. So we're gonna go tree top and just save. Right. And it's good to have them separated as well because we're gonna bake just the we're just gonna bake the tree trunk and not the tree top. So onto our next software, which would be Substance Painter, or should I? In fact, before we do that, let me open Blender real quick and show you how you would do the UV trick inside of Blender. Right, so now we're in Blender. I'm just gonna import real quick our previous mesh. Let's go to, where was that? Engine export? Treetop. Here it is. All right, so it's in the correct position and stuff. You can see it's the same mesh. If we just part this view and go to UV editor, you can see what I mentioned, every single face. And if I turn off the sync view here, every single face is in the same place in the UV space from 0 to 1. Let's remove our UVs. So now our model has no UVs. So in edit mode, select everything using A. In fact, let me turn on screencast keys. So go to edit mode, tab, press A, select everything. We're gonna go mark seam, Control E mark seam, and all we need to do now is press U and reset. So same result, different softwares. So yeah, this is what you would need to do in Blender. So yeah, let's just leave our mesh over here and name it tree top, and we could just move it to. In fact, let's set everything up. Let's move it to tree over here. Is this the correct one? Yes. All right, this is our tree. As you can see, this is the mesh before we sculpted on it. So what we're gonna do is back it up. It's the backup. Remove it. Let's import our tree low. As you can see, here it is, same mesh. Now they are at the same point in space because ZBrush exports everything into 0 of the world. This is fine. I'm gonna shift tab to snap and I'm gonna move it over here. In fact, let's move it over here. We'll just set it to 0 when we need it back where it belongs. Right now, I am going to show you how to do the UVs for this guy. Let's just see if I have the, yeah, I do have the material set up. All right, the textile density material, so that we can check the textile density. Very quickly, I don't remember if I explained this before, but now textile density is basically the process of making sure that your models and textures are the proper height and width so that the textures don't look stretched or blurry or wrong. So the textile density checker helps us by layering a checkered texture on top of it so that we know if the cubes look correct, then we have good textile density. And if the cubes look blurry or stretched out, we know that we need to tweak something out. So there's a textile density checker tool for Blender that you can download. I haven't checked it out yet, but I probably soon will. But you can do this without the tool as well. We just need to keep textile density in mind, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's very quickly do the UVs for these. Remember, you need to think about this model as if it was a 2D plane. So what we're going to do is, let's just start cutting. I've selected this, I'm going to mark seam, and since this is a cone, I'm probably going to cut it along its length here to make it into a flat shape. And I hope that these islands will have the correct size for a good textile density. But yeah, I just cut these two. I'm gonna cut these. It's important that you cut all of the start of the branches. Those will give you problems. So, and I'm also cutting it right here so that we have so that this part over here, let me see, yeah, so that this part over here is completely laid flat. Otherwise, it would be conjoined in this part. So right now, it's completely unwrapped. Or is it? It is not completely unwrapped yet. We would have to unwrap it over here. So now it's completely laid flat. All right, let's work our way up here. Mark seam. Let's mark seam for every one of them. And when we have three ways like this, it's a bit difficult. But I think that this should be okay. And so then we go over here. And yeah, it's just a process of trial and error to really know where the optimal cuts will be. And we're going to be doing that, just that. So let's mark seam over here. So this is going to be our main trunk. If this is the front, we want the seam to be somewhere around the side. So this one might be okay. Mark seam, and let's not forget to get rid of the under part so that this doesn't get used in an engine. Now the silhouettes for this are kind of, do you remember we had nicer silhouettes inside of ZBrush, we might want to play with our export or not. I mean, the bake will take care of this actually. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, actually we do have the silhouette. Can you see? It's just not visible because of the smoothing, but we do have it. All right, back to our unwrapping over here, and we can definitely just unwrap this part over here. And in fact, maybe we should just clear this seam in particular and do it over here instead, since we already have a cut here. This may be too apparent. Maybe it's too visible. Actually, let's go back. Let's do it the way we had before. Yeah, let's do it over here. I think this is more concealed. I don't know for sure. This is trial and error, right? But all right, this one's covered. This. All right, I think we can get to the topmost ones. Let's. All right, let's mark the seam. We want to mark these two. All right. Where else? Here is a good one. Mark seam, since this is just all right. So we don't want both of the sides. We just want one. So yeah, here it is. We'll just clear this one. All right. No, we already cut this one. Right now, it's a matter of just cutting the topmost two ones. I think. Did I miss anything? Mark seam, mark seam. Oh yeah, we did. We missed this one. Right. Cut, mark seam. Select the in-between edge. Find a good place to cut it, which I think is this one. Where's the front? Yeah, this is a good one. Now, it doesn't really matter where the front is. I'm just using that for reference, but since we're gonna be rotating these around, ideally you'd want the seams to not be visible from most, if not all, of the angles. But that's fairly difficult to not have them show at any angle. So we're using some of our leeway over here. All right, this is cut fine. Is it? No, it is not. Right. Right now it's just a matter of doing the topmost ones. Mark seam, done. Mark seam, done. All right, now it's time for the truth. Let's see if this worked. Let's press A to select everything. You unwrap. Good. It sounds good. Just one doesn't. Look, this one is a bit weird. Let's turn on sync and see. Oh, why? What's going on with you? Oh, we didn't cut it. We didn't cut along its length. This is super weird. Huh. Wonder what we did in ZBrush to warrant this. Let's merge them. It's fine. I hope it's fine. But this is one of the top branches. I'm not really worried about this one. So let's just cut it along its length. There. Now we have two different. Oh, there's another one. Did we forget to... Whoa, what's going on? Forgot to cut this one as well. Mark seam. We did forget to cut it. Alright, do we have any other issues? Good. Let's look at our textile density. Now, we do have some stretching, as you can see. Not too bad, though. Yeah, overall, this is pretty good. However, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to separate these by order of importance. So these And what the hell is this? Clear the seam. Clear these as well. Look out for... Oh yeah, it looks much better now, actually. So those were some minor mistakes. Yeah, look out for unplanned cuts you may have. I actually cut this one right along. This is actually incorrect. Here, mark seam. All right. This is a very small piece. I might want to just... Is it too bad? It's not too bad, actually. Maybe I should cut it along here. Yeah, this is better. Right. So, yeah, on to packing our UVs. So, yeah, textile density is pretty cohesive all around. However, we're gonna and I tend to do this, but you don't really need to do this. In fact, it's better to get a Packmaster add-on to pack our UVs. But I tend to prioritize the areas the player or everyone will see most. So I'm gonna get these, separate them out. These aren't as important, so I'll throw them to the side. I'll just lay these out over here in a way that I can get the best possible textile density for them. Maybe increase their size. If you increase the size, you increase the textile density. This piece is way too big. I might do a little... Should I? They're pretty big. Yeah, probably. I'm gonna cut them off over here. Let's mark seam, and that, since I have live unwrap on, it's gonna repack everything. But I think it's cool, actually. Blender's doing a good job of making a cohesive textile density, so it might be good. I might not do what I usually do, which is I usually just get, for example, this is the most important part, right? The trunk. So I'll just blow it up so we'd have more textile density. We'll look at our bake and see if this textile density is enough or not. We might rearrange some of the UVs to make more room for it. But right now it kind of looks really good, actually. I don't like this seam over here. I might just do it over here instead. Let's mark it. Let's clear this. And let's mark it again. Yeah, this might be better. In fact, I might go farther. Oh no, we got some overlapping over here. We need to get rid of this cut. Yeah, this is the wrong cut. Clear seam. All right. I wonder why our UV's a bit warped over here. Maybe if we... Yeah, we should probably do this. No, but what if we did something like this, where I grab this and I just straighten it? Well, that looks not correct. Never mind. This is the UV squares add-on. It often works for other types of meshes and not trees. I don't want a seam right here. That would kind of improve our situation, but I don't want the seam there. So let's just leave it like this. We can try to improve our situation by maybe rotating Oh no, and we have like a loose. Why is this here? Why is this like loose? Weird. Anyway, so yeah, it's fine. It's actually fine. I think we'll see. We'll look at our bake and see if it's fine or not. Is this still like a loose? Huh, that's weird. Maybe I moved it. Anyway, here's our UVs. To be fair, it looks nice. Looks okay. Just to demonstrate, let me apply the same material. I don't know if you can tell, but so since our texture, here's our texture. This is our texture. So every single face has our texture on it, the whole texture, because it's stretching from 0 to 1, right? So it's a neat little demonstration of how it's looking. Anyway, actually you do want a material on this, so let's add like a SM tree. Let's put this to 0. We're not gonna merge them just yet because we need the bake for our tree. Since our tree has UVs now, we're gonna re-export it. Go over here to, was it exported meshes? It was not. It was engine export. Yeah, SM tree low, selected objects, just re-export it because now it has UVs. And the next time we'll go to Substance Painter, and after Substance Painter, we're gonna merge these two together and assign a different material for each of them. In fact, let's just do that now. Since we already exported our low poly, we'll just merge these, and now we have a material for the trunk and a material for the tree. This is important because then Unreal will detect that there's two materials, and then we're going to be able to assign one for each of them. I think this is all for this part. Next time we'll see each other in Substance Painter and then Unreal, where we're going to set up the whole tree, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Right, so we're up here in Substance Painter. Let's just create a new file and use the Unreal template. We're gonna use 1024 texture, let's say. In fact, now let's do 496 just for the project, and then we'll export it at less. Let's select our low poly over here in Engine Export. Tree low. Here it is. You could also try the auto unwrap. We unwrapped it manually, but you could try to do the auto unwrap. I didn't get it to work really well for trees, but for other meshes, it works really, really well for rocks. But we're gonna manually unwrap all of the assets we have. So we're not gonna really use this. If you already have a normal map for the mesh you're importing, you could add it here, but we don't. We're using Substance exactly because of that. So let's press OK. All right, now we got our beautiful tree over here. And if you press F1, or rather F2, we're gonna get a full view of it. If you press F, you can go to it. You can go focus on it. Yeah. Anyway, so basic Substance Painter. Right. So let's go over here to our texture set settings. I'm going to click on bake mesh maps. So we're going to make our bake. And essentially what baking means is that we're transferring our high definition detail from our high poly and projecting onto our low poly using a texture. So we're going to get the detail from our high poly, but with the memory budget from our low poly. So it's going to be a very light mesh, but with high fidelity details. So that's heavily used in games because games wouldn't, our current hardware cannot handle the millions of polygons that the high poly meshes have, right? So this is a way to get that detail. So over here in high definition meshes, and it's important that both of your meshes are in the same place in space, because the way this works is that the Substance Painter casts a bunch of rays through the high poly, and where it hits the low poly, it projects the detail from the high poly there. So it does a bunch of ray casts, a bunch of ray traces, and uses the position of those to project the detail. So if they're not in the same place, the rays are never going to intersect both meshes, right? So they need to be at the same place. The way it does that is it creates a cage around the model and then projects the rays that way. That's why we have the cage and cage file. You could create the cage manually and use the cage file to drive this, but Substance Painter will do this automatically if you don't have a cage specified. Another thing that you could do, and in fact, this whole section, I'm gonna probably repeat myself for the next assets, or maybe not, maybe just the main piece. Because this is really important stuff, right? So if you skip this for whatever reason, I'll cover it in the next one as well. At least one other. So our low poly mesh suffix, what this is for is if you were doing batch baking. Oh, for some reason it stopped responding. I didn't even click anything. If you were doing batch imports, you could have all your low poly files named low and all your high poly named highs, and use this as the driving effect for a batch bake. But we're not batch baking here. So on to the baking. So we're going to select our high definition mesh over here, which is our tree high. Here it is selected. And if you noticed before, I unticked these boxes. Now, these are mesh maps that we can bake using the bake function in Substance Painter. World space normal, ID, curvature, position, thickness are all maps that you are going to use inside of Substance Painter to drive maybe smart materials or generators. Since we're not going to be exactly texturing it here, I just want the normal map, the normal and AO. The reason I'm not going to bake AO right now is because we need to check if our bake is going to turn out okay or not. The fastest way to do this is just check normal and see how it turns out. If it turns out okay, then I'll check every other box. So enough talking, let's bake. This might take a while. I don't know how long it's going to take. So if it takes way too long, I'll just cut and go back. But it looks like it's, oh, and it's looking mighty fine. Okay, so let's check. Let's get in. Good. And Substance does a really good job of hiding the seams. You can't even see them. I don't think there are any seams. So we got a pretty good bake. Look at the bottom here that we didn't have in the low poly. We didn't have very interesting shapes, and now we do because of the normal map. Now overall, this is looking like a good bake, and you can see it's not blurry at all here. That would be a texel density issue, but it's not blurry at all. It looks fine. It looks really good, which is great. All right, now we can move on. So let's go to bake mesh maps again. Let's bake all of them. Let's bake all of them. Let's bake all of them. All right, it's gonna go through each and every one. This one might take a while, but let's just wait. Let's just see if it gives off an error. We'll analyze it. Let's do everything in camera. Here's the ambient occlusion. Very simple ambient occlusion. We don't have many branching shapes. Here's the curvature. Nice. Nice, nice. This is really nice. Very good. All of the maps are baked. So let's we're not gonna texture it inside of here, so let's just export our textures, the ones that we need, which will be just it'll export 4 textures, but we're only gonna use 2 of those. Let's go to our folder, source file, and textures. Let's create another one for our SM tree. I did a test bake for our tree trunks, that's why I have it here. Let's select this, and excuse my Windows for not being in English. I'm not the only one that uses the computer, and my main language is Portuguese, so that's why it's in Portuguese. No matter, it's fine. size. We want, remember that we did a 4K bake. We want a 1K or 2K bake. We want a 1K bake. Let's keep this performant. So let's just save the settings for now and go to export again and export. Good. Now if we go to the folder that we used to export this, source files, textures, SM line tree, you can see we have the base color, which is completely blank because we didn't use it, and we have both of these. Now this is a channel pack texture that packs roughness, metallic, and ambient occlusion. Excuse me. We're only going to use ambient occlusion. So in fact, you could have one grayscale texture, and it would be more performant. But this is fine. Let's use it in case you textured it inside of Substance Painter. I'm going to teach you how to use the channel pack texture that comes from the Unreal 4 template, and this is our normal map. So we have both of our maps over here. This is great. Next time we see each other, we're going to be inside of Unreal, and I'll set up the tree material. Alright, now we're here inside of Unreal. I'm just going to import everything with you. So let's go over here to models. Alright, source files, engine export, our tree low. Here, in fact, we should probably, I already have the main piece here because I recorded it before everything else. I'm gonna have our main piece be inside of its own folder. Alright, let's wait until that moves. Alright, now I want a tree. We just have one tree, but you can make as many as you want, of course. You could use the tutorial as inspiration for many different trees. So our SM tree low doesn't have our tree top with it, which is unfortunate. I remember that we did merge them, but we probably forgot to export it merged already. So let's do that. Since we've already baked it, we don't really need. Anyway, so it's already baked, so we can merge them. Here's our tree, naked, no material. I placed it in the scene because we can then just replace it. Alright, here's our merged mesh. We'll just go to export, FBX, engine export, SM tree low, selected objects, export. Alright, here it is, and now we can just go to Unreal, right click and click re-import. Boom, here it is. And if you go under here, you can see we have two world grid materials. Unfortunately, they're not named for some reason, but we can just guess, right? And we're going to create our new material. Oh, I created a folder. Sorry. We're going to create a new material. A material called m_tree tree leaves material. You should probably hop in to Illustrator and show you how to make the opacity mask for this particular method. Great, Illustrator has opened. Let's create and you can see I have a bunch of opacity maps over here. Let's create a new file. Let's make it 512 by 512. I won't even name it. No, actually, let's name it. SM_ tree opacity create. Gotta do everything right. Gotta name it. All right. Here is Illustrator. I won't go in depth on how to use Illustrator. You could use Krita. You could use Photoshop. You could use Paint. For all I know, this is just a very simple opacity map we're gonna make. Basically, what an opacity map needs to have is a black background with white on top. The white will be shown, the black will not. That's basically it. So let's just save this already, just so we have a file to work with. Software projects, Illustrator. We already have a tree opacity. That's a test I was doing before. So let's save it. Here it is. Okay. All right. Now I'll just put these colors over here. Let's create another layer. The first layer will be named background, and we can fill it. How do I fill stuff? I forgot. It's been so long since I've actually used Illustrator for anything. So let's just create a square instead of filling it with the bucket. I was gonna fill it with the bucket tool, but just create a square and leave it at that. I'm gonna lock so that we don't have access to it. Now, very quickly, let's make, if you press shift, you will keep the aspect ratio. I don't know why I'm teaching you this, because you might not be using Illustrator anyway. Let's make this white. Right, so how did I do it previously? Did I just do it like this? And then how did I do it? I forgot. Maybe I did, I went in with this one. Oh yeah, that's it. All right. So all you need is a leaf shape, right? So the way I did that before is, this is actually pretty difficult to just keep it in line. It's probably a better way to do this, but I'm not the most skilled in fact, this could be your leaf shape for all I know, but I'm not the most skilled in Illustrator. So bear with me here. Good, all right. Where you have a rough, very rough leaf shape, and this is fine. Great, now we have one leaf. Let's make this smaller. All you need to do now is plaster it around. But let's create, oh, and remove the outlines. Good. Just creating different shape, because we're gonna group this and splash it around. Create a medium shape. And in fact, let's do it again. I was gonna create like one shape and group it and splash it around, but maybe doing it like this is better. Do you think the shape is good? I don't know. Let's go back to what the original idea and just make it like this. We'll make this one smaller. Right. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, this is fine. Let's group this. We'll just Control-C, Control-F, and we'll just paste it all around. Oh my God. Go back. And we want to arrange them in a circle. We want to have good variation of these black spots. Of course, spend as much time as you can making sure the silhouettes look good, that they make sense. Maybe create more than one shape to go with this. Instead of like one shape, create two or more. But of course, I'm just teaching you how to go about it so that you can experiment on your own leisure, at your own leisure. Now it's fine if this doesn't look perfect. All we're looking for is a good clump or a good sort of shape. You're gonna make this smaller and insert it here. Yeah, that's good. In fact, having more smaller ones towards the middle is better. All right, just going, oh, what's this? Let's go ahead and keep going around, adding, pasting these around until we think it looks fine. Looks good. But yeah, I can already see that this will do like a good, so create like a good opacity map for us. I should have like more space towards the right of the frame over here. Yeah, this is looking good. Like I'm excited to see it in Engine, how it's gonna look. Maybe get these big ones and separate them and use them independently. Make this one bigger. And now all we need is this bottom part here. We just need to fill it. In fact, did I already copy it? I did not. Right, here it is. Maybe make this smaller and have another one come in. This one's too big. This one's too big as well. We want like space here in the middle. As I said, we want like a good balance of clumping and spacing so that it looks good, you know? I'll show you. I have other opacity maps that I've made before that I took more time to make and stuff that might work better or whatever, just to show you as an example. But this one isn't too bad. It's a bit chaotic though, but that's mostly fine. We actually do want like chaotic shapes and stuff. All right, this might be good. This might be fine. I'm just gonna center it better here. Or raise the size. It's a bit too square, but it's probably mostly fine. We'll keep tweaking it all day. Yeah, experiment with this, try it out. Let's save our guy over here. So save as. Actually, yeah, let's save the file, whatever. SM3 opacity. Save the file, whatever. Export is the right one. Export as. PNG, use artboards. Let's go. I'm gonna export it directly to Unreal. So content, textures. I'm just gonna export it directly there, and then if we go to Unreal, we'll just click import, and I already got the other ones here. You can see the previous one I made was more sparse. Oh, actually, I forgot something. Actually, I forgot something. Let's go back. Go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we'll just, what's going on? Why isn't it blurring? Oh, I should select them first. effect, blur, Gaussian blur. Definitely don't do it. Don't overdo it. Otherwise we'll lose detail. This is fine. If you keep it too sharp, it won't look as good. So, in fact, I'm gonna export both and just show you. Here, content, tutorial textures, and I'm just gonna name this 2. Export it. Okay. Go back to Unreal. All right. So this is the blurred one. B. Ah, shit. Copy, paste. This is the blurred. Nice. All right. Let's make our material, shall we? M3 leaves material. So, right, enough chit chat. Let's make our material. Let's start with the color. So, let's add a runtime virtual texture sample, make it a parameter, name it color RVT. Right, so this is our color RVT. Let's sample our color. Good. Now let's hook it up to a static switch parameter parameter, because we need to know if we're going to use RVTs or not. If we are not using RVTs, then we'll make a vector3 parameter, name it color. How I made this parameter is I pressed and held 3 in the numpad on top of the keyboard, and I clicked. And then I right-clicked it, converted it to parameter. Let's hook it up to our false. So basically, the static switch. Let me get the color from elsewhere here. Paste, and you can copy the numbers if you can see them. If not, here they are. So I don't know if I explained this before, but if I haven't, I will again. The static switch parameter basically gives us the option inside of our material instance to check or uncheck a box. If it is checked, we use this graph. If it is unchecked, we use this graph. All right, on to the most diverse set of options here. All right, here it is. So let's connect this to a linear interpolator, or if I search for LERP, linear interpolator here. What a LERP does is basically it's gonna linearly interpolate between 2 values based on an alpha. So where the alpha is a grayscale texture, by the way. So where the alpha is black, we have one value, and where it is white, we have another value. I don't remember if I explained it, so I'll just explain it again. The B here is going to go into hue shift. The reason we're doing it is because then we can get some color variation regardless of whether we're using RVTs or not. So our hue shift percentage is gonna, let's press and hold S, create a parameter, name this parameter hue shift, and connect it to our hue shift percentage. And our texture, let's go over here, multiply our color by a parameter that we're going to call underside color. This is going to come in handy because we're going to make a mask for our LERP, and this is going to be our second value over here in our texture, and therefore in our LERP as well. Right, so let's make an underside color. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to get our vertex normal, we're going to mask out at the bottom of it so that we can control the color on the top and on the bottom, and we'll control that based on a different different parameters. So you're going to see it. So let's go. Vertex normal, world position, or no, this is just the vertex normal. All right. Breakout, float, 3 components. Basically, our vertex normal here gives us X, Y, and Z. we're gonna separate them into X, Y, and Z, RGB, and control them. All we need is the height. So let's get our Z, or the B here, RGB, X, Y, Z, and we're gonna add. Why did this not work? I need to click. All right, add. Let me bring my mic closer over here. Here it is. This is gonna be a parameter called normal add. Good, and it's gonna be default 0. Now we multiply this, and we're gonna multiply it by another parameter. In fact, no, this doesn't need to be a parameter. This is gonna be a constant. And to bring a constant in, I just click and hold 1 and click. So 1 is a float 1, 2 is a float 2, and 3 is a float 3. If you hold and click, all of these will show up. Let's connect this, and the default value for it will be 0.5. We'll just leave it tucked in here pretty neatly. All right, keep everything organized. Now we need to know the power of this blend, so we're gonna add a power node, and now we need a parameter called normal power. Normal power, here it is, and I'm trying to think of the normal power, but I'm probably gonna leave it at 0, and we'll tweak it at our own leisure. But however, what we got here is the height from top to bottom, and we need to invert it, so we get it. Or was it the opposite? All I know is that we need to invert this to connect it to our lerp. So now our lerp has a mask. And I'm pretty sure this does it for our colors. However, we need to keep everything organized, right? So let's select all our parameters and minus this one, and add them to our base color section of our material instance, so that everything is neatly organized. And we are going to connect this to our base color. Good. Let's bring this over here so that we can bring this over here and tuck this all. Select this, press C to comment it, and we're gonna put color. All right, here's our color done. I'm just gonna set my roughness here to 1. We don't really need the roughness control. If you want, you can convert this to a parameter, but we're really not gonna use it. All right, up next is our Fresnel, or rather our emissive color that we'll use for now. This gives us a nice cartoony effect. So let's start with a Fresnel node. Good. Now we need a Fresnel exponent, or rather exponent. Let's just keep it at 0 whenever we'll change it in the material instance. Let's saturate this. What saturate does is it clamps this value that is going to be put out from 0 to 1. So we get a nice even number, a nice even interval. Let's multiply our saturate and give it a color by having a parameter here called our highlight, because this color is only going to appear where the Fresnel shows, and the Fresnel effect is sort of the sheen around. It's a PBR. It's one of the pillar PBR concepts. I'm not going to cover it, of course. However, just to cut a long story short, it's basically this sheen that all natural things have. It's the natural reflectiveness of everything, and it's integral to making a realistic effect. However, we can use it in cartoony effects like this one. So multiply. I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. Might want to tone it down a bit, but I feel like it's mostly fine. I wish this was live so you could tell me if I was going too fast or not. Let's add. Alright, I just added a multiply. I saved for some reason, misclicked. Anyway, here's our. You can see the blend we did on top. So, right now, what was I doing? So I created a multiply. This is our emissive strength. You could also use a power node here. But I'm going to use a multiply. This is probably done. Yeah, this is done. All right, emissive color. Oh, one thing I forgot to change was the material blend mode. It's opaque right now. We need it masked so that we have the opacity mask plug, which we'll just add right now very quickly. I'm gonna name this highlights. Highlights. Let's bring in our, so we have the blurred, we have these two that I made previously. Let's use the unblurred version. We'll just add it as a parameter. We'll call it opacity mask. And we will add this to the opacity mask section of our instance. And in fact, both of these are going to go into, do I create a highlight section or do I put this in color? Because it technically is color. Nah, I'm going to select, forgot one. I'm going to select all these three and put it into highlight. Just so we have everything very, very tidied up. All right. Here's our opacity mask. You could create a multiply here to control how opaque it is. Don't really need that for this material, so I'm just gonna connect it directly. And as you can see, look, it's already looks like leaves. Right, but we still have a bit to do. What we're gonna do now is we want wind, right? So let's just add a simple grass wind here and connect it to our warp position offset. It's gonna not like that because we don't have any inputs. So let's just create 3 inputs by holding S. That's why we have a bunch of S's. The first one will be wind intensity. We're just gonna match the ones in here. The second one's gonna be wind weight. And the third one is gonna be wind speed. All of these will be 0. By default, we won't have wind, but we can turn it on by just tweaking these and making them value other than 0. The true bread and potatoes, or meat and butter, I don't know, of this material comes right now. Basically, we're gonna do that trick where we billboard every face so that it always faces the camera and we get a nice effect. And this will be better visualized once we're out there and I'm showcasing the shader to you. Right now, let's just focus on getting this blend right and getting every single node correct, because this is very easy to mess up. So I'm going to try to remember everything, but I think I can. I'm going to get the texture coordinates over here. Now this texture coordinate will connect to 1- node. We want to invert this. The 1- node inverts things. I don't remember if I explained that, but now I have. It just inverts. So if you get a gradient, let's just showcase this very quickly. Let's get a linear gradient. Let's just connect this to the, it won't budge. But wait, why is it still, do I really need an additional warp position offset? Yeah, just so it compiles, just so I can show you. Here's the linear gradient. Let's preview this. Here's the gradient, goes from left to right. We're previewing the U gradient. I can't preview the V gradient, but here's the gradient. The V gradient goes from top to bottom, but if I run it through a 1- node, now it goes from bottom to the top. You see it? So the 1- inverts a mask, basically. So this is what we're doing. We're inverting the textural coordinates. We're going to multiply it by actually a fixed parameter, which is a 2. It's a constant. So then let's just subtract it by 1. I forgot the explanation for this math, but Pontus Carlson's video on it, if you go over here, let's go to YouTube, and you see I already have it like searched. He does this shader originally for Unity, but he explains every step of the way, and he explains the math behind it and everything. I confess I'm not smart enough to really understand every single step. However, I converted it to Unreal 4 with the help. There's actually another video, and this one's by Stylized Station. If you go Stylized Station Hobbit, I think it is this one. Johannes, he also converted it to Unreal 4. I picked a lot of things up from his material. Other things I tweaked on my own, but he has a nice breakdown for his scene that includes this material in Unreal 4, which is the same one I'm showing to you. And he also confesses that he doesn't fully understand the math behind it. Yeah, it's really difficult. Or maybe he does understand it. I don't know. I do not, though. So let's go. All I know is that I remember the shader now. Multiply it by a vector 2, and this will be -1 and 1. Let's just multiply it. And append a 0 to it. We're gonna append vector. Alright, what we're doing now is basically setting this up so that we can... Now this is the most important part. So we're setting up our vectors so that we're basically creating here a camera space vector, right? And right now we're gonna connect this to a transform vector. This is very important, right? This is a transform vector. It says here tangent space to world space. What we created here is a camera space one. So we're gonna go over here, select a camera space, and we're not gonna convert it to world space. We want this locally, not globally. We want this only in our tree, so we want a local space. So camera space to local space is very important. Right. Now we're gonna normalize the result and multiply it by our billboard size. So this is basically multiply, yeah. So this is basically us getting our camera space and converting it to local space, so we can get a transform size, so that we can change it over here using a parameter called the billboard size. And by default, I'm gonna make this 1 because if it's 0, it won't show up. We need more space probably. Right, connect our multiply. Now we need to convert all of this to world space, right? Before we were converting it to from camera space to local space. Now we need to convert it to world space and add some, because since this is a world position offset, this needs to be world space and not local space, right? So we need to convert it back. Now let's go. The way we do that is use another transform vector, but this time we go from local space to world space. Good. Now let's get our vertex normal again. Multiply it and by this parameter called inflate. Right, so inflate is basically going to do exactly as it says. It's going to inflate our billboard or deflate it, depending on what we need. Yeah, it's going to make more sense when I showcase the actual result. All right, we're just going to add this to the other and multiply it just so that we get the overall scale. This is the final result. So this multiply is going to be the final result. We're going to multiply it by a billboard scale. And just going to leave it at 0, just so you can see how it looks without any sort of... And so here it is connected to additional word position. And this is pretty much done. So this is a whole shader. wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. All right, maybe not for me, but might be for you. So let's just name it billboard world position offset. And remember, if you have any questions, you could go ahead and why does it look like this? Am I previewing something? Anyway, if you need anything, just contact me. Don't hesitate. All right. So we're just gonna save this. Wow. All right. Let's select all of the parameters. Are these all of them? Oh yeah, the wind. And let's add it to work PO, work position offset, and billboards so that we have both of them together. All right. Everything's dandy. Now I'm gonna go show you how this looks inside of our scene. Alright, so we're now up here in our scene. We got our material over here. I'm just going to create an instance, create a material instance of it, and just drag it over here. And look at that. It looks nothing like the other trees that we have. That is because all of our parameter values are all set to 0. So let's just very quickly go over all the values and what they're doing and everything. So we've got them all laid out over here. So these are our color parameters. I'm gonna come back to those. These are our highlights, which are also color. This is our opacity mask that we're gonna switch out. But the magic is happening on these three. So billboard scale and billboard size. Let's just put this to 1. You can see it tweaks it a bit. Right, so if we change our billboard size over here, if we slowly raise it up, you can see that now we've got a fluffy tree. However, the underside of it doesn't look the best. It's all black because over here in our underside color, we have a 0. Now let's put this to 1. Good, now we have the same color, slightly, albeit slightly darker. That is why we have the normal add and power. I'm just going to change the color over here using our hue shift just to show you what the add and power does. Now the normal power will control the contrast of this blend. So let's put it something softer. And normal add will control how far that blend goes, as you can see. So let's put it something like this. Let's turn back our hue shift, and here's our tree. We could tweak the color, make it darker, make it brighter, make it another completely different color. Let's leave it as is for now. Now we have our emissive strength. Oh my god. And our emissive strength goes hand in hand with our exponent over here, our Fresnel exponent, that will control our highlights. We could have very cartoony looking ones with trees by upping the emissive and using more or less exponent over here. We change the highlight color to something that we like, maybe this bluish sort of color, I don't know. You can tweak it and get whichever values you would like. Let's just set our emissive strength to like 0.5, and yeah, I mean, you can tweak the values to try to get something closer to what you would like. Maybe something like this. I don't know. You tell me. All right. Now, over here, just to show it a little more, these first two, they go hand in hand, right? One controls the billboard scale, and the other controls the billboard size. They might look similar to you, but a good combination of these two prevents you from getting a tree that looks like this, right? So combining the two, well, maybe this one is 15 and this one's like 3. Yeah, let's give you, and ideally you don't want these gaps. You might want to go back and remesh it again, because or get less topology, remesh it again, like get less topology, because you don't want to have to put a scale too big, otherwise the tree doesn't look its best. Yeah, can you see, like the scale is way too big on it, so that now it doesn't look as great. So yeah, a good combination of these two will get you a long way. We have this huge patch over here that has nothing. I don't know why, but overall this tree is looking good. And of course, if we'd like to get it looking like the other trees, we'd need a bit of tweaking. But yeah, you can work on it, get the proper values. I'm just gonna show you the same one but with different opacity masks. So if you get up close, and we're gonna use the blurred one. I don't know if you can tell the difference. It's a very slight difference. The blurred one didn't make that much difference. Now I'm gonna show you the one I'm using on these ones. Yeah, so it's more cartoony. I actually quite like the new one that I've made, but this one has more high frequency detail. Actually requires a bit more scale, but it looks pretty nice. And this is one of the first ones that I made. This is very cartoony and requires higher scale and maybe less inflation. Yeah, this one looks good from far away. It's very painterly. Some of these float around. Yeah, I like it. Anyway, yeah, you can use a bunch of different ones to get different results. And in fact, this one is just a bunch of blotches. Look, yeah, not even complex. Not very complex at all. So let's save all the changes to our material over here. Close everything. But yeah, let's see. Why is there a huge patch? Huh, I don't know. Anyway, it's compiling the shaders. Yeah, this is it. The trunk material is actually the same. It's a prop master material that we use for these trees, for the rocks, for the landscape pieces, for the main piece. It's the same one. I am actually going to teach you how to make this material when we make the main piece. It's the same material. So I'm just going to make it and then teach you how to... it's going to be a material instance, so you just drag it in and change out the normal and ambient occlusion sliders. Not the sliders, the texture samples. All right, so yeah, here is your tree. Sorry for the abrupt cut. Let me remove the material. We crashed when I was talking about the main piece. So this main piece material is the same one that we're going to use in the trunk, in the trees, and in the other trees. So I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to make an instance of it and show it to you. Here's how it looks. Oops. Yeah, so here's that. Well, that's the right one, but it's lacking the colors. So you're going to learn how to make this material. I'm going to show it to you. Is this the correct material? Oh yeah, because I clicked on this other one. Yeah, let's drag this other material, because the colors are already correct in it. So this is how it's gonna look like. However, it has the wrong normal map on it, so let's fix that. This is just to show you how the tree looked like in the end. I'm not gonna teach you how to do the material right now. I'm gonna teach you when we get to the main piece, but just in order to not leave you hanging, I'm just gonna show you how it's gonna look. Do I have the correct material open? Oh, I don't. I changed this one. Let's go back. Yeah, that's the correct one. Oh my god. Okay, this is the correct one. Here's the... Alright, that's the correct normal and the ambient occlusion. Alright, here's how it's looking. And of course, the best thing to do here would be to tweak the blend bias and the saturation, the sharpness, I mean, in order to get a better blend. Don't worry, I'm gonna teach you how to do this. I'm gonna teach you how to make this. This is just to showcase how the asset looked like in the end, right? So yeah, anyway, you can tweak these values. I'm trying to get a rather good looking blend. Let me just put blend sharpness 1, both of these to 1, then raise the sharpness and decrease the bias. Yeah. Anyway, you could also add a detail normal to this. We have that function. I am gonna teach you exactly what detail normals are, what they do, what you would use them for. But this is just to showcase how our tree came out in the end. Here's our tree. And of course, if you would like it to look like the other trees in the scene, you just need to tweak the material, tweak the color a bit. Anyway, so this is how our trees came out in the end. And we're going to be doing the same workflow for the rocks, the main piece, the landscape piece, all that good stuff. Let's go.